Hey guys, if you stuck around after the end of the video, here's a few more comments from the very last story because I wanted to read more, but I forgot, so I'm just gonna put this here. I'm not having an affair, but I'm allowed to do it is a wild thing to say if you weren't having an affair. She should never be with this guy again. Dude. This is when I may have killed my marriage. I told her I didn't give her father a truck of cattle for her to question me. This was my house, my wife, and if I wanted to have something on the side, that was nobody's business but mine. You've got to be fucking kidding me. He comes across as sensitive and loving in the way his post is written, and then you get to that. It's hard to read that and not think that it's not the first time he's said some absolutely wild shit to her. Yeah, he's definitely able to hide the usual day-to-day assholery from his post, but he needed to include what he actually said to her. Guy's just garbage, and she's happily away from him and with people who actually care about her. So he had the money and was already planning on fulfilling that cultural tradition, but pretending not to and leaned into machismo because of his insecurities. After a few years of stringing her along about moving home, becoming distant despite not actually cheating on her, he pretends that he has and leans into machismo out of sheer cruelty. What was the point? Why would you do that to somebody you love? Their problems didn't start on Reddit. They started from whatever malfunction he has that causes him to lie and be mean for absolutely no reason. I hope she has a beautiful life without him back in her home country and is able to heal from the wounds he's intentionally inflicted. There is nothing to heal out and no repairs to be made. She's lucky to have escaped him. That poor kid, though, I hope they're more accepting of mixed race kids in Zimbabwe than they're likely to be in Sweden or Switzerland. If their own father pulls out all his racism in the moment there's conflict, what hope does the kid have with the rest of his culture? Oh. It took him 2 weeks to figure out she'd gone back to her parents. Right. I could not figure out that my pregnant wife had definitely gone back to Zimbabwe, somewhere she missed badly and wanted to raise her children. Bro. And where we'd planned to move as soon as I finished this project. How to Torpedo a Marriage for Dummies. This was my house, my wife, and if I wanted to have something on the side, that was nobody's business but mine. Your Honor, he was fucking his coworker. Gotta be, because that's an insane overreaction. Being accused of cheating when you're not would be upsetting. When, but I don't think you'd turn to saying something like that if you weren't guilty of something. Yeah. I doubt this is real, but a man who loves a woman would not talk to her like that. Also, Sweden is a very racist country. What he said was racist. Yeah, fairly sure this entire post is incel bait. Okay, let's pretend we didn't just read that one. I'm kind of curious about. Wow, this had very little to do with the cultural aspect, but more about control. He was well aware of his actions, yet decided to poke the bear and see how far he would get his way. The Lobola, moving to Africa, and the affair thing. Good thing she got out before things escalated. Pretty sure that there was indeed an affair. He really thought that because he paid a bride price, she was his to do as he wants and would never want to leave him. Personally, I'm not sure that I would have agreed to pay it, but one thing is sure here. He didn't have an issue with paying it because he saw it as rooted in misogyny. He likes too much the concept, and he totally sees women as objects. His only issue was his brother not liking it. Trying to find some more comments um about the fact that he was waiting till he was done. There is so much in this I have issue with. This is a very hard to believe story. I want to find I want to find some comments about where he said about about where he was waiting until he was done his project before he went back. Like before he didn't want to go after her because he wasn't finished this project at work. I'll never fully understand when people cherry pick specific traditions they want to uphold, but exclude others on the same criteria. A bride price is not misogynistic, it's an important tradition. While at the same time, having multiple wives is a barbaric misogynistic tradition. I mean, I get it at the end of the day, it's whatever benefits the individual in question, but it is hypocritical. Yeah, alright. I hope the wife sends him divorce papers and files for child support. Yeah, for real, that's what I was thinking. Get child support. Get child support, bro. Please get child support. Oh no, not the consequences of his actions. Oh my gosh. Oh no, not the consequences of his own actions. There's actually an entire subreddit dedicated. So One last comment. If this is even real, it's one of the worst things I've read in a long time. And I have to add that this guy's player is Ogtha, my central roach queen. If this is even real, it's one of the worst things I've read in a long time. Am I weird for having a physical reaction to it? My stomach dropped when I read the part about ownership. He's officially the worst. My wife, 34 female, left me at 35 male because I was racist to her. Ha! Even the title shows that he's unable to admit he was a racist. The use of quotes. I sincerely feel our problem started on Reddit. Sure, blame Reddit for your arrogance and cruelty. At the time of the Reddit post, I was going through some stuff. I knew the expectation of Aurora and I had been saving for that alongside her engagement ring for years. So he was going to pay the bride price but changed his mind on a whim because he had just argued with his racist brother, whose criticisms and stupid beliefs he took to heart. Smart. She was mad I'd allowed her to be mocked, ridiculed, and bullied by strangers online because I couldn't communicate with her. Wouldn't communicate with her. He's a big boy and a superstar in his NGO. He knows how to use his words. Also, he allowed his brother to ridicule his wife and her culture and say shitty things. I doubt he stood up for her during that argument. He was more concerned with his own ego. He seemed more focused on how his brother criticized him about losing his identity. She wanted to have her babies back in her country. We had agreed that this was what we do. It's important to note that my wife doesn't really like living here. She says she hates living here. For the last 2 years, she had to go on antidepressants because it was all a bit much for her. I asked her to hang on. I asked for us to hang on for a while so I can finish a project I'm leading. That was over 18 months ago, and we didn't end up moving as I got promoted and it became harder to walk away. Her grandma passed away, so I attributed the low mood to that. Sorry, but is he an android? He seems defective. He can't seem to empathize with his wife like he's an alien studying human behavior. His wife is lonely, socially isolated, and miserable. OP says she hates living in Sweden, but then says she doesn't really like it. It's minimizing language. He says she's so depressed that she started medication, but then describes it as a bit much for her. How he explains the deep grief of losing somebody as a low mood. I told her I didn't give her father a truck full of cattle for her to question me. This was my house, my wife, and if I wanted to have something on the side, that was nobody's business but mine. Speechless. I don't know why I didn't drop to my knees and beg forgiveness, instead doubled down and told her to stop the theatrics. You don't know why? LOL, it's because you derive some sick pleasure from hurting her. Your words cut like a knife, and that gives you a little thrill. And then you snap out of it, regain your senses, and feel bad, but your pride prevents you from apologizing. You refuse to apologize for days, like now, weeks, first Reddit post, or longer. I'm guessing there's some shit you've never copped to. Guess that moment of triumph wasn't worth it. And I guess not apologizing quickly, genuinely enough, was a bad idea because she's gone. Like, gone, gone. I'm not having an affair of any kind with my colleague. I don't know why I couldn't just say that to my wife. Because anytime your wife bruises your ego, you see red and say the worst thing you can think of. You're fragile and you have a vicious streak. If someone hits you with a low level insult, you immediately strike back with a mirror gender. I guess this time her big mistake was questioning your faithfulness and character, blow to the ego. The other time her big mistake was saying you couldn't afford her, blow to the ego. And you were already on a rampage because your brother said you're losing yourself, which, if you're made of glass, can be interpreted as weak or whipped, blow to the ego. This continued for days where I avoided her because I couldn't face the guilt. Your pride and arrogance are insane. I hope you're reading these comments, lol. She told me she doesn't consent. She told me she doesn't consent to be in a polygamous relationship, and since it's what I want, I should expect to receive divorce papers from her soon. Fuck around and find out. She did the right thing, she took you at your word. When you lied just to hurt her, pretending you never wanted to pay the bride price, pretending you're having an affair and want to have more, you've got to stand by it. Same thing when people threaten divorce just to be manipulative, and their partner files later that week. I can't follow her just yet because the project I've worked on for so long now is near completion and I can't walk away. Yeah, finally, someone addresses that. 18 months wasn't enough. Now it's a few more weeks, and then a few more. There's always going to be another project, another delay. On top of everything else, he chooses work before his spouse. My friends told me I was racist to my wife. The fact that I wasn't even serious made me more cruel, apparently. Yes to both, there's something wrong with you. So yeah, he chooses work before his spouse, not just his spouse's unborn baby. Hey guys, there's one more comment. I think I'm just gonna put this in like a mini video that's gonna be like an extras video from my recent video. There was so much more in the comments in the original post. I gathered some of the most important ones. One, he said in the comments that he never intended to move to Zimbabwe. He knew he would get the promotion and they would need to stay. Also, he never told her that he didn't want to move, so he lied to her for years. His family is racist. He never really supported his wife with the struggle and actually said that at the end she stopped trying. His mother was super racist. Once the wife prepared some special party for Mother's Day for his mom. Throughout the party, his mom was ridiculing her, hated the food, and took the present that the wife prepared without a thank you. He said that the baby would change his family's racial views. He decided to wait a few weeks before flying to Zimbabwe because his precious project was more important. He also decided to go there for 2 weeks because, of course, this is enough time for him to win her back, and she probably will comply and fly back with him. Almost forgot, for 7 years he spent Christmas with his family while his wife was home alone. I really hope that she is an ex wife already.